Go straight to what we've seen a couple minutes ago. We are learning that the South Korean President Moon Jae-in had given an official address while sitting with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, and now he is saying South Korean President Moon Jae-in said that he welcomes this meeting with the North Korean leader and said that all eyes are on the two leaders. In other words, that all attention is on him. And
let's go to the site right now. We are going to have some footage of the excitement that's been building up to this moment, and of course more ways to fuel our excitement and anticipation as the day progresses. Yes, we are seeing what we've witnessed just less than an hour ago. It's hard to believe that this actually happened, and it's quite an honor and a privilege to have been a part of the witnesses who was here to soak in the moment.
Right, they had their moment, their Photoshop moment. They shot their photos together with just the two of them, and they had a group photo before they walked into their summit place. We are learning now, Daniel, that about 3 minutes ago, the two leaders have turned their summit to closed doors. So they are no longer having their morning session of the meeting broadcast live.
Right.
So we will hear back from the two leaders and the officials of the both sides once they come out from their morning session.
Right, the officials' words will be out, but the vibe we're getting from little bits and pieces we can gather right now is that it's very positive, that they're very eager and open to talks, and they can't wait to continue.
And in that meeting is what I'm learning that the chief of the preparatory committee for the Inter-Korean Summit, Im Jong-seok, and the international the intelligence service chief, Seo-hun, is also with President Moon Jae-in, and alongside the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, we have a delegation Kim Young-chul and also his sister Kim Yo-jong beside the North Korean leader inside the summit meeting at the Peace House.
Once again, we would like to highlight the fact that these are the aides that are always by the two leaders, like a shadow. They're always there to provide their support and an attentive ear. And of course, they're also the speakers for the leaders as they represent them where they cannot be everywhere at once.
And as a helper to their leaders, right. They've been working their butts off to make this happen today.
Pushing themselves to the limit constantly.
Exactly.
Right, and they do have an interesting history. The aides of President Moon Jae-in, they've been deeply immersed and involved in the previous preparatory committee for the Inter-Korean Summit.
Right.
So it's time for us to cross the X's and dot the I's and cross-check what we missed out in the past summits and the present summits. As for the North Korean sides, they do have a very royal list of followers as well.
Right, Daniel, and we are getting countless latest details on the summit that is taking place at the border village of Panmunjom between the leaders of South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. We have learned moments ago that their meeting is now closed doors, so we will have to wait and see what comes out of that meeting. But in the meantime, we're going to cut live to our Park Hee-jun, who is going to bring things us from the Torasan checkpoint, which is where we're at.
Right.
But she's on the ground covering what goes on around her. So
within striking distance, but of course on the floor to make sure she covers more area to give us updates on what's going on outside the comfort of our studio, which is very warm and toasty at this point. Hee-jun?
Hey Daniel, Semin. Like you said, the Dorasan checkpoint is actually only a couple of kilometers away from Panmunjom, where the two leaders, Kim and Moon, have finally met for their historic, long-anticipated summit. And it's actually the gateway connecting the two Koreas, South and North Korea, and it's also referred to as the Inter-Korean Transit Office, or the Customs, Immigration and Quarantine Office of South Korea. It's located in Paju, Gyeonggi-do Province, just south of the demilitarized zone separating the two Koreas. And around 200 Koreans used to pass through here every day when the Kaesong Industrial Complex was still operating. But it has been pretty much empty since the complex was shut down until the recent Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, when North Korean VIPs and athletes came through here to enter the South. And it's been especially busy in the last few days with the Inter-Korean Summit just ahead.
All right, Heejin, thank you for those updates. And of course, it's quite a rare sight in this part of the nation, all thanks to the media buzz. We are seeing various members of the media outside of Korea as well coming in. And not all of them are here on business. They just want to witness the moment themselves, putting their
Up
business,
front,
business
yes.
cards aside. And they were just saying hi and exchanging pleasantries. I was thinking that maybe it was time for me to, make
Get
sure
in the
I'm in the right mode to face the camera and do an interview, but that wasn't the case.
So we are still waiting. We don't know when this morning session of the both leaders will take place. We are assuming sometime before lunch hours because we know beforehand that we were told by the presidential office of Cheongwada that the two leaders will be having their lunch separately,
which is
in
intriguing.
different buildings.
Right.
So South Korean President Moon Jae-in will have his his lunchtime rather, with his delegation, while North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will return north of the border just by crossing the
Right.
demarcation line, like he did about an hour ago.
We're
and
seeing the interior of the scenery, what it would have been like for the two sides sitting to face each other. We have a more refined clip, a playback from what happened behind closed doors. We're hearing the voice of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
자, 우리 멀리서 오셨으니
You
인사
have
말씀
come
먼저
from
하시죠.
far distance. Can you give us a short greeting?
제가 어떤 마음가짐 가지고
I
200m 거리나 되는
came here by foot, the 200 meters,
이자 분리선을 넘어 보니까
but crossing this
분리선도 사람이
border
힘든 높이로
is
막힌
not
것도 아니고
it's easy because there's no high barrier.
여기까지
And I
역사적인
crossed the border very easily, and it took me 11 years to cross this border. But by walking, I wonder why we have spent so much long time since I crossed the border. We are having a very historic moment today, and there are a lot of people who are looking forward to this,
합의나
and we could
글이 나와도
have a very good
이게 제대로
agreement.
되지 못하면 또 오히려
But what's important is that it's implemented, because if it's not implemented, then we will let more people down. So with such determination,
Looks like we're experiencing some technical difficulties. We're hoping to have directly translated, interpreted version of the detailed pleasantries and exchanges between the two leaders. But we'll have to settle for the visuals and share with you what we have so far. Certainly, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un seems very dedicated to explaining his side of the story, that he wanted to do this for the longest time, and he questioned himself and his regime that why did it take so long to cross it. Sounds like it's quite poetic and timely of a gesture and remark to be made at this point. He also mentioned he is determined to make sure he won't let any more of his people down, because it was becoming more visible that the people of North Korea, just as much as the ones across the border, we would like to see that barrier torn down and for us to actually constantly be exchanging.
Let's listen in.
짧은 거리를 오면서 아까 말씀드렸지만 정말 이자 분리선을 넘어 보니까 그 분리선도 사람이 넘기 힘든 높이로 막힌 것도 아니고 너무나 쉽게 넘어온 그 분리선을 넘어서요. 여기까지 역사적인 이 자리까지 11년이 걸렸. 잘 연습됐습니까?
자, 우리 뭐 멀리서 오셨으니
You have come from far distance. Can you give us a short greeting?
제가 어떤 마음가짐 가지고
I
200m 거리나
crossed the 200 meter, and it's a very short distance. I told you earlier, but crossing this border itself, well, the border does not have a very high barrier, and it was easy for me to cross the border. And I came here to this very historic moment, and it took us 11 years. And as I walked here, I wondered what took us so long. Today is a very historic moment, but as I told you before, there are a lot of people who have high hopes. And because we need to have a very good agreement or document, but if they are not implemented properly or well, we will not have great developments, and this in turn will let many people down. So this is my determination, and we have lost 11 years, and I will make sure that we take use of the 11 years. And we will resolve issues, we will stay united, and we will have the same determination. And with such determination, we will be able to utilize the past 11 years. And at this moment, I have mixed feelings, and that's how I crossed the 200 meters. And at this moment here, I hope that we will write new history in terms of our cultural exchanges between the two nations. And we are here at a very important starting point. So we have a lot of issues of mutual interest, and we will deal with them frankly, and we will yield great results. And taking this opportunity, we will not go back to the original state, and we will not be able to not implement the agreement. And let's hope to look forward and walk together. There are many people who are anticipating today's results. And I saw earlier that the dinner menu is also a very hot topic here. And I also invited Pyongyang naengmyeon, or cold noodles from Pyongyang. So I hope, President, you can enjoy the Pyongyang noodles, which I brought from afar. Actually, not that far. I hope you can enjoy this menu. And I hope that we can seriously and frankly talk about the issues at hand with President Moon Jae-in. We will have very good dialogue, and which are very much in need. We will yield great results. And this I tell you, President Moon Jae-in, and I'll also share this message with the press corps. Thank you very much. As we celebrate our encounter, the weather is great today. I think we have spring here on the Korean Peninsula. The spring on the Korean Peninsula is garnering much attention globally, And we are here at Panmunjom, which is garnering international attention. Citizens from North and South Korea, as well as people around the world, are having high hopes. And it can also be interpreted as that we have very much burden on our shoulders. Chairman Kim, you crossed the border for the first time, and at that very moment, Panmunjom has become a symbol of peace instead of a symbol of division. And this is very much anticipated by our international citizens, and you have made today's moment possible, and thank you very much for your courage. Today, our dialogue and our talks will also be very frank, and I hope we could have great agreement so that all of our people in the nation can receive a great present of peace. Today, we will have a long time to discuss, and we will be spending the whole day together. So we will discuss in length the dialogue that we haven't been able to carry out for the past decade.
And quite a lengthy speech by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. I was not personally expecting him to have that long of a speech before going closed door with President Jae-in.
Right. This was an opener or a warm-up to the big talks, an icebreaker, and yet it seemed very thoroughly prepared and rehearsed,
and orchestrated,
possibly in front of a mirror or a camera. I am deeply moved by how he mentioned the little steps that he had to take, made him trail all the way back to how did we stray apart so far, and why did we not make this move? It's just a few steps, as you mentioned earlier.
And something that stood out from a North Korean leader was that he does not want the repeat of what had happened in the past. And he said, quote, to where we are unable to fulfill our agreements with new history. So he's making his statements in of itself is already speaking about a new chapter in in the history of Korean Peninsula.
Right, the stage has been set, the tone has been fixed as well. We hope a very clear and rigid follow-through from here on with the tone that's been set. President Moon Jae-in also was very welcoming of Kim Jong-un's gestures and praised his courage of taking this bold step. Let us now turn to our Kwon Jang, who is standing by with some experts for their take on what's been transpiring so far in terms of this dramatic and historic developments in inter-Korean history. Jang-ho?
Thank you, Daniel. As Haemin said, a historic chapter in the history of the Korean Peninsula. To break this down a little bit further, we have with us Kim Chang-soo of the Korea Institute for Defense Analyses. Thank you for joining us, Professor.
Good to see you, Jang-ho. Okay.
Now, when the two leaders met and shook hands, in the press corps, there was audible gasps and a spontaneous round of applause.
Sure. Right.
I mean, what is your reaction? How do you feel about this personally?
I joined them because this is a really good start for our two countries, North and South Korea, and this portended well for a coming meeting with the President, and also possibly another summit meeting with Kim Jong-un. I think we started as a very good meeting. Everything went just as planned, punctual, and there was a good handshake, and there was a reception, and also red carpets and on-guard. Everything went just fine. And they are talking very kind words to each other, thanking him for coming down to Seoul. And also, I noticed President Moon Jae-in particularly appreciated Kim Jong-un's bold decision to come down to Seoul, to come to southern part of the MDL to have this meeting. So this is a very friendly and open-minded discussions and welcoming ceremony. And so far, everything went so good, and people are just becoming much more kind of euphoric. There's a good reason for that, and this is, I think one of the things that I noticed is Mr. Kim Jong-un writes in the guest book that this is the beginning of a new peace. So my focus was, we are talking about the unification in the past, always unification, but instead of unification, this peace is more reasonable. And so as the motto of this conference said, this peace at a new start, we are not talking about a kind of potential unification between two Koreas, which may come, which will come later on, but for the moment in the near future, it is a peace on the new start. So we are just leaving all the era of division behind, and we're agreeing a new era of kind of peace. I said this is really symbolic, and this is a very good news for not only for the South Korean and North Korean people, but also to the world, because all these neighboring countries have been involved in security and peace and unification potentially. But I think for all these countries, a good reason to celebrate that finally we have arrived at a point where we can really expect some real progress in terms of peace, potentially leading to unification.
We'll go back to the actual the opening remarks of the summit in a second. But let me just go back to their handshake in the very beginning.
Yes.
I mean, as you said, everything went to plan. But there was, most of these kind of summits are normally scripted, from beginning to end. But there seems to be one impromptu moment when, as they shook hands and Kim Jong-un crossed over to the southern side,
Right.
Kim Jong-un offered Moon Jae-in to swap over to the northern side.
That's right.
Yes, and it seemed to catch President Moon Jae-in by surprise. I mean, what was your reaction to that? And,
I was
what
really
do you think of
surprised as
that?
well, because that's not on the script as a matter of fact. And I think I predicted that there will be, after a handshake, there may be a kind of hugging each other, but I proved wrong. But instead they went to cross the MDL again, and they stayed there maybe a couple of seconds there and come back to the southern part of it, which is a little surprised, but this is a sign of a harmony rather than just one side forcing on each other. But this is just kind of agreement, mutual agreement. Okay, you cross the MDL, and you also should cross this MDL, and then reuniting again. So so less than 1 minute, it was a very symbolic, and which has been, I don't think it has been planned, but this is a great, a bold gesture by Kim Jong-un, and it's a good surprise.
I think it's especially significant for President Moon Jae-in, especially as his family is from the northern side.
That's right, because Mr. Moon Jae-in also crossed, even momentarily crossed the MDL line, and he's originally from North Korea. So this is a kind of sign of all the past history, but now we are heading for a new era of peace rather than new, kind of old era of division and confrontation with each other. Highly symbolic. Right?
Very symbolic, and you said everything went to plan. What do you think about the body language of the two leaders as they walked in? We're seeing pictures now as they crossed over the line. Moon Jae-in seemed quite calm, and Kim Jong-un looked quite confident as well. But perhaps a little bit of hint of nerves. What do you think?
Oh, they should be, in their heart, they should be feeling kind of nervous. But on surface, they should behave as a leader, really qualified leaders, dealing with all this kind of very sudden changes in our relationship. But I think this is quite something we can expect from the leaders on both sides. I think they actually perform perfectly as a leader, showing that we have this confidence in meeting each other, and we are heading for a kind of new era of peace, rather than unification for the moment. Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's go into so they met and they walked in, they did the signing, and then they opened the summit. They they broadcast live the opening remarks by the two leaders. Kim Jong-un seemed to carry on his positive attitude, positive remarks towards Moon Jae-in, offering a few jokes here and there as well.
That's right.
What did you make of his comments?
I guess it's a very good start, and this is a good icebreaker remarks, for example. And we talk with it very honestly, and the good thing is we are speaking our own model and tongue, and there is no need for any translators. That's why they could just convey what they have really in their minds. I think this is just perfect for the two leaders to communicate with each other face to face, and this is a good sign that we're going to have a very good kind of summit meeting later on this day, and include the dinner this afternoon. So I'm just looking forward to what kind of joint announcement we're going to have after this meeting. So yeah, sure, very excited, very relaxed and very good.
What do you think? So right now, they've started the summit meeting. They'll be carrying on the summit meeting for probably an hour or two before they break for lunch. What do you think they're going to be talking about right now? What are the issues that they will try to tackle?
I don't know, because if you look at the pictures, there are only three guys and two delegates, three delegates as well, rather than just 7 or 9. Because this is just very intimate meeting between a very inner circle, to Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in, two on each side. So they're talking something that has not been planned among the members. So there's maybe some friendly episode, maybe family issues, food and stuff, or culture issues, how we should be reunited again because we are one nation as well. So this is a kind of ice-breaking, but very friendly, personal remarks to each other, and which will really pave the way for a successful summit meeting later on this afternoon.
So this meeting right now is going on between the 6 of them. I mean, all the work has really been done so far, getting up to this point. So perhaps it is just a matter of, making the final, shaking hands, making the final signatures. But do you think there's something that they're going to be talking about in there specifically? Like, do you think they're going to be talking about denuclearization?
I don't think this is time, not a time for talking about denuclearization. This is, the denuclearization is too heavy. I think there's something about the personal ties, or what should be the reason, rationale why we should seek for peace instead of denuclearization, for example, and peace rather than unification, which has been the case for the last 50, 70 years. But now this is new era just started, and they are standing at the starting line for a new peace. So this should be a very personal, very friendly encounter with each other, rather than very strict official talks about denuclearization, because they are too tough, too heavy.
So that you're saying that the actual topic of denuclearization might be too much to tackle in this kind of meeting, that they would have had to do that beforehand, or someone perhaps lower down the chain would have discussed it more?
I think this kind of heavy tough stuff like including denuclearization will be discussed later with all the members, only like 7 and 9 on each side. But with just among these 6 people, starting with the friendly and personal ties and their dreams for peace on the peninsula again, rather than division. I think this is something they can personally discuss with each other, rather than official meetings with all the attendants on their entree. That's why this is just personal ties. His sister and his vice chairman for the Central Committee for inter-Korean relationship, and this symbolism means, and this this shows the significance Mr. Kim and Mr. Moon attach to this just 6th meeting for the moment, but which later we will move to a little bit bigger meeting between the two sides.
There's a question. So the leaders have met, and the atmospherics are so far very good. They're shaking hands, they're smiling, they're joking. But how much should we read into this? I mean, obviously, Kim, the North Korean in the past have shown, shown animosity before, and they've perhaps shown that they can't be trusted.
That's right.
So what do we make of this? Is this a show? What should we read into this?
I don't think so. I don't think this is not a show. This is a real gesture of their intention that we're going to seek for a much better relationship instead of talking no more animosity, which has been the case for the last 2 summit meetings. But time has changed, and we are much more stronger than North Korea, and they know they are inferior to us in terms of not just military capabilities, but all national power as well. So I think this is kind of big brother and younger brother meeting each other, and we are entering this new age of peace. It's just a symbol that this really means business.
So let's go back to some of these pictures that we're seeing now. I mean, when Kim Jong-un came down the steps, as I said earlier, in the press corps there was gasps. It's an unusual sight that we're seeing.
Yes.
We haven't seen this kind of thing before. What was your reaction to this?